What's going on, internet? Back with a little talk about what's going on in Israel. Very important, very hot topic right now. Very divisive topic. I think a lot of people have emotions either to one side. A lot might have to do with identity politics. A lot has to do with propaganda because people just regurgitate what they see on their trusted news sources, right? So if your news sources is telling you that Hamas beheaded 40 babies and they're out there sexually assaulting women and killing people, and you don't see what's on the other side, obviously you're going to think that Hamas is the supervillains and Israel is the hero, victim of the story, and they're going to need to defend themselves again because you can't let another Holocaust happen. And maybe, you know what I'm saying, if you're just watching from another perspective, you might see it's just, Israel bombing Gaza because of what it is. But I think the perspective that's being really propagandized on people is in favor of Israel, because Israel is an ally to the United States. They lobby Congress, so they lobby a lot of politicians. So you're hearing a lot of politicians definitely on the side of Israel. And they definitely are influential in the media too. So I think what happens is, I know it's like, it usually takes two to tango, two to fight a war. And it is, so you have two people fighting a war, but Israel has so much money and has such a big army, and the people of Palestine are really poor, and Hamas isn't really that well armed. It's kind of like a midget trying to fight a giant, right? So a midget fights the giant, kicks the giant in the shin, and then the giant beats the hell out of the midget. Now, you could say, hey, the midget deserved it, he shouldn't have kicked the giant. But also you could say, hey, the giant's pretty big, pretty strong, he could probably restrain the midget, take the kick, and keep it out moving without beating the hell out of the little midget. So Israel is very strong, very powerful. There's a reason they are, is because of the United States. The United States funds Israel, supports Israel, has Israel's back. And because of this, the United States is responsible for what they do. If you give someone a gun and you say, go do what you want with it, and you get caught up and that person kills someone, you can get caught up in the conspiracy. You gave them the gun to kill someone. So United States, I think, is just to blame, or more to blame than Israel. I think Israel is kind of being, set up by the United States to be a pawn of theirs in the Middle East. And, they want constant war. There's industry, a lot of people out there who want war. These people are defense contractors, and they're very influential. You have companies like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and these companies, they make money when there's a war, because that's when they get their defense contractor money is. And I think people really don't understand what it means, when they say we gave $8 billion in military aid to Israel, or $30 billion in military aid to the Ukraine. We're not just giving them money. We're giving money to our defense contractors, and the defense contractors are giving them weapons. And these defense contractors, then they lobby our politicians. They donate to their campaigns. They fly them out to fancy places. So what you have is a bunch of politicians who are incentivized to go to war. So war is good for these people. War is good for defense contractors. War is good for politicians, because they get money from defense contractors who want war. So that brings us back to what's going on in Israel, is that there have been a lot of attempts for peace. Before, you had Yitzhak Rabin, he was assassinated, he was a moderate. Before Hamas, you had the PLO, people like Yasser Arafat, who, people do say bad things about, but he was willing to negotiate. Now, what they're doing is, in terms of quote-unquote Islamic terrorism, there's always been a tie between intelligence agencies kind of using Islamic terrorism as a scapegoat to kind of justify invasions, justify wars, justify whatever, right? So you have quote-unquote Hamas doing these things that are kind of unconfirmed. You had the 40 beheaded babies, which sounds really crazy, and then it looks like it's coming from a really dubious source. And then you had Joe Biden saying he saw it, and then he came back and said that he didn't see it, he just read it in reports. So, spreading all of these kind of misinformation. And this reminds me of a lot of other things that go on, like, Saddam Hussein had WMDs, or even before that, that in Iraq they were taking babies out of incubators and killing them. And then I think that like Susan Rice was saying that Gaddafi was giving Viagra to his soldiers to rape women. So all these gruesome things that turn out not to be true, and they're really emotional. So they really want to trigger people's emotional nerves to kind of justify the war. So I really think that it's not Israel or Jewish people necessarily. It's really the CIA who kind of wants it. And I know a lot of people think like Jewish people control CIA or intelligence agencies, but during the like 70s, 80s, 90s, CIA was harboring Nazi war criminals. Klaus Barbie, Joseph Mengele, like the worst Osama bin Ladens of the Nazi party were being harbored by the CIA. And these guys you would think would be like super top priority for Jewish people to capture or kill, but they were being harbored by the CIA because the CIA wanted to use them. So who's really kind of in control in the situation here? It really seems like the CIA is controlling Israel and these kind of religious fanatics over there, not the religious fanatics controlling over here, because America wants war. And what a better way to have war than to have a Jewish state in the middle of a Arab Muslim region to bring tension, and then you can justify spending all that military aid that goes back to the companies, that goes back to the politicians. So yeah, man, the reason for the war, of course there are religious reasons and everything, and it's who started or what or whatever, but we have an extremely powerful occupying force fighting a poor rebel force. So this is the empire versus the rebels. This is the French resisting Nazi Germany. This is the Americans resisting the British. And in all those cases, you're gonna have violence on both sides, civilians killed on both sides. But there is usually most of the time in a war, of course, you never have like a right person and a wrong person, but a lot of times you do have an invader and you do have a more powerful bully force. And I think in this situation, despite Hamas' alleged acts of terrorism, Israel is the bully force in this situation. They're the occupier, the invader. They're the people with the extremely, the kind of colonial power going on right now. So I think we just need to come together and end the war, and I think we really need to start by not changing Israel, but really changing America, because America is doing this everywhere, man. Ukraine, Israel, like a lot of the source of the wars is not coming from really Israel or the Ukraine. It's coming from the United States, and they're using the Ukraine and they're using Israel as pawns for these wars. So that's it, man. The change starts here. It looks like all our politicians are super pro-Israel anyways, even RFK. So it's going to be a tough battle. But I think it's not just Israel, it's about being pro-war. And, you can wipe the anti-Semitism, Islamophobia out of the situation by just realizing that you have a class of people who benefit from a poorer class of people being bombed, terrorized, having their water cut off, and that these lives don't matter to these people, especially when it comes to the almighty dollar, which is war. War is a racket. Smedley Butler said it. It's been going on, since the assassination of JFK. Even Dwight Eisenhower said, "Beware the military-industrial complex," and that's what's happening, man. That's what's driving this conflict in Israel and Palestine. They're both being kind of pawns in a kind of geopolitical war. I think that America wants, or a lot of American politicians want a war with Iran, and they see Israel as a kind of pawn to get to that eventual war, which would be horrible. So yeah, let's get these warmonger politicians, man, out of our country, man. Have them stop making these decisions on these wars, because it's horrible, and deciding who to give military aid to. But I'm gonna wrap it up on 10 minutes, man. That's the reason behind the Israel-Palestine war is money.